Welcome Assemblyman Farley Augustine. And it's Farley Chavez Augustine, but he have a badge on him. But anyway, he's the representative of Parlatuvier, Speyside, and of course we're talking the amendment bill. Good morning, Mr. Augustine.
Good morning, Brother B. Good morning, Tobago. How are you going?
Very good. And when I said Chavez, I say it's a badge on name. I hope you don't mind. And of course, we're talking about Chavez, who was president of Venezuela, who was bold, and he went into America and he said, hey, Bush is the devil, and he wasn't afraid and so on. I get that same fighting spirit from you. That's why I said a badge on name. Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
All right, let's get your perspective on this amendment bill. Obviously, all the voices has condemned it, and clearly it's a bunch of rubbish. Well, he has some rubbish and he has some good things in it. But anyway, give me your perspective as to the PDP's position as deputy political leader of the PDP. Give me your thoughts on this proposed draft.
Well, Brother B, at 8:06 p.m. on Thursday night, we received the modified version, the latest version from the Joint Select Committee. At 3 p.m. on Thursday, we joined the Joint Select Committee in a closed-door meeting along with representatives from the People's National Movement and Mr. Hochoy Charles and One Tobago Voice. Mm-hmm. And we were told then that on the 9th of June, and I believe the 9th of June will be in 2 days' time, we will be moving towards carrying that modified version to the Parliament. Mr. Charles, along with myself, raised strong objections to the timeline. We felt as if this thing was being rushed, and the modified version that is there is not quite ready, quite where it's supposed to be based on what Tobagonians have said that they wanted. We have challenges in terms of democracy. In fact, during the JSC, myself and the chairman of the JSC, Mrs. Camille Robinson-Regis, and the AG, we had some strong back and forth, and that's me putting it politely. But we are adamant that Tobago in this season must finally be given what Tobago needs and what Tobago wants. Because it is our right to self-determination that we are talking about. And if it is we have a democracy, what ought to happen is that the people of Tobago must be duly consulted, and that there must be some consensus going forward. In fact, from day one, I have been saying, and we have been saying, that no more than ever there is a need for us together to go down to Trinidad and advocate for Tobago's business. And that's one of the positives we saw from this 6-6 debacle, that perhaps this should force us to come together with one voice and to strongly advocate for Tobago, because this issue has always been a Tobago versus Trinidad issue, and one that requires Tobagonians as a unit, as a nation, to really stand up for what it wants. Yes, we have seen some movements, some shifts based on the submissions we made to the Joint Select Committee, but the shifts are not nearly enough. The changes in the latest version, Brother B, includes things like, one, they have now reverted from the title Premier to the title Chief Secretary. Two, although the Attorney General initially said that, they can't give us no miles at all, no miles of water at all. And you may recall that I called him out on it, and I presented to Tobagonians a leaked copy of Ambassador Thompson's point of view. And after I called him out, now they're saying, look, we could give you 11 miles, However, that will only be exclusive administrative control, not legislative.
Very good.
So it means then, let me break that down for Tobagonians. It means then that with this 11 miles, you could administrate over Boko Reef, but you can't legislate over Boko Reef.
Very good.
That's what it means.
All right, good. Well, let's go back to the consensus you spoke about. You said Hochoy Charles, yourself, and who else? We didn't hear the PNM or a representative from the PNM forming that consensus. So it means, therefore, and I want you to bring clarity to that. You mentioned Oche Charles, the PDP, yourself, and who else that made up the consensus putting forward your position or the Tobago position? Who else?
Well, 3 parties were represented in that meeting with the Joint Select Committee. The PDP, the PNM, and one Tobago Voice, or the Tobago form of political parties led by Mr. Oche Charles.
Right.
At that meeting, the PNM's position primarily was that there are a few minor things to change, and they made some recommendations in terms of some changes in terms of what is in the bills with regards to finance, some changes in terms of tenureship for chief secretary and how that works out, remuneration and so on. And they raised those issues, but their general position was that the JC would have made some progressive shifts. Our position, on the other hand, was the JC has not shifted nearly enough and need to shift some more. And we also held a view, which Mr. Charles also held, that we needed more time, because if it is we are carrying this thing to Parliament, you modified what was last sent to Tobagonians, then you certainly cannot bring this thing on a Thursday night, discuss it on a Friday afternoon, and bring it the following Wednesday. That cannot be a reasonable timeline. I'm sure if we should do a poll of your listeners, Brother B, and ask them if they have heard, if they have read the latest version of the bills, they would tell you that they have not, or they may not have had it.
All right.
And so if it is, we are going to actually fundamentally change the constitution of Trinidad and Tobago and give Tobago autonomy, then we don't want to sign off on something that Tobagonians have not signed off on. That will result in us entrenching Tobago's colonial dependent position on Trinidad.
Excellent.
We do not want to entrench our enslavement to Trinidad. We want to free Tobago politically.
Very good.
And that's why we have set up our virtual consultation with the public, with Tobagonians on Wednesday evening. We have set that up. We set that up for Wednesday evening. The last time a bill was presented, we also had virtual consultations, and we saw over 200 people participating, which is more than what participated in the JC's own consultations on the said bills. Now that they have modified it, we have placed those modified bills on our online platforms. We have shared it via WhatsApp. We want to encourage as many Tobagonians to read those bills for themselves, see what those bills say, look at the changes, see the changes are far-reaching enough, and let's have a discussion on it on Wednesday, because I promised the JSC that whether they put it in the Parliament on the 9th or not, I will be writing them again. As I did previously, I'll be writing them again with some additional modifications that must be made.
Very good. Let's go deeper into the modifications that you all advocated for and would have gotten. You mentioned earlier about the boundaries, obviously the 12 miles that we have all been clamoring for, and of course we have the 200 zone, exclusive economic zone going towards Africa side and so on. But let's come to the sharing of equity in sharing the wealth. Obviously, Trinidad has made whatever arrangement. They are drilling in our waters. We know the value. Tracy Davidson would have said she's asking for 6.8 of the budget, yes, and so on. But let's talk about, and Mr. Vanos James said, we're not talking percentage here. We should get, somebody said it, I can't remember, that we should get our equal share of the pie in terms of what is in our waters. From that perspective, what was the position of your new grouping or the consensus, the team? What are you putting forward as to how we benefit equitably, should we say, from what is in our waters, the natural gas and so on?
Well, and that's something I wrote to the GSC about, and they completely ignored that part. After the previous bill, I wrote to them, in fact, our submission to the JC was 25 pages long, plus an appendices, or the appendices. In total, that was 107 pages long. And one of the things we indicated to them is that larger than allocated a percentage of the national budget, we should look carefully at it. It is very advised that Attorney General Alwari was talking about Ambassador Thompson. Over and over again, he has been talking about that. Ambassador Thompson also advised that we could go the route of Scotland and other countries with devolved power and create a formula by which Tobago should get a share of royalties from exploration of any resource within the waters of Tobago, right up into the continental shelf. And that has been completely ignored. Tobago stands to lose if all we focus on is 6.8%, because outside of the 11 miles that they want to tell us you could only have administrative and not legislative privileges for, we have the wide open waters that Tobago brings to the country called Trinidad and Tobago. We bring that to the archipelagic state called Trinidad and Tobago. And what must happen is that there must be a formula by which Tobago shares in the royalties from any exploration that exists into the continental shelf, whether it be oil and gas or otherwise, fishing, otherwise, whatever resources that Trinidad and Tobago seeks to explore and exploit off Tobago and in Tobago's waters, Tobago must have an equitable share. And we are not saying by any stretch of the imagination that Tobago must own and control all of the royalties from exploration within its waters or into the continental shelf. No, because we are part of a unitary state called Trinidad and Tobago. And so we agree, yes, we must contribute some things to the national pie, because we expect the central government to manage things like national security. We expect that when our fishermen call Coast Guard, they must have boats available for our fishermen. We expect that when we're talking about international relations, that we must have ambassadors and high commissioners that represent Tobago's interests as well. And so we expect that we must contribute to the national pie, but we are very clear and very adamant that you cannot, as a nation, as Trinidad, come into Tobago waters, explore and exploit all our resources there, and all we must contend with is 6.8%.
All right,
there must be a formula by which we could share from what is ours.
Okay, let's go for the break. When we come back, we continue, Mr. Farley, Augustine. Clearly, that is not acceptable. All right, when we come back, we continue our conversation. See you then.
Always doing something special for mothers. We're not forgetting fathers this year. Tobago Channel 5 is giving you the chance to win big. Viewers and listeners to Tobago Channel 5 would be invited to call into Rise and Shine, as well as send their contributions to Tobago Channel 5's Facebook page under the Father's Day graphic to tell us a funny story about their father, something amazing that your father has done, or the most valuable thing you ever learned from your father. The most creative, amusing, articulate, and memorable callers would be eligible for prizes from our sponsors. So listen out for the chance to call in to win big this Father's Day with Tobago Channel 5.
This year, avoid bacteria with cleaning supplies. Made locally superior quality, a family brand you can't deny.
Is the new trusted brand for household cleaning. Visit us on Facebook and Instagram at Z's Cleaning Supplies. Place an order by calling us on 340-4610.
When you need electronics, find what you want quickly at Ted Electronics. We have tons of brand name items in smartphones, tablets, LCD and smart TVs, headphones and speakers. For the best in electronics, check Ted. Amazing service and the lowest prices guaranteed. Located upstairs Moosehead Plaza, Bethany Road, Tobago. Ted Electronics, your ideal choice for electronics.
In these unsure financial times, protection of your hard-earned financial assets is a priority. We at MI4 Security Cash in Transit Service are sure to grant you peace of mind. Fully insured services. Call us today at 660-7723 or 635-2144. MI4 Security Services Company Limited, keeping Tobago safe.
Together, 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 together. We building bridges through space and time, filling the gaps in our hearts and our minds with love. I need you in my life, yeah. Together, together, hey, hey. And together we'll arrive. Together forever and ever as one.
All right, welcome back. And we continue our conversation with Assemblyman Farley Augustine, of course, here representative for Parlatuvier, Speyside. And, of course, we are talking the Tobago Amendment Bill, obviously. Good news that they have come into formal consent, or come to a consensus with all the parties in Tobago and, of course, putting forward one voice. And clearly, well, we wait to see the outcome of that. But, Mr. Augustine, we spoke with Mr. Clyde Weatherhead on Friday, and he was very clear that nothing can happen in Tobago unless the 6-6 matter is settled. I heard the leader, Mr. Watson, calling on the PNM to resume negotiations, should we say, about sharing power. Give me a perspective as to, well, your position as deputy leader of the party, and, of course, this whole idea of trying to come to a place where we can watch and make history here in Tobago that both parties, 6-6, have decided to share power. Give us your thoughts.
Well, my thoughts are the same on this matter, are the same as my political leader, Mr. Duke. And as the leader of the team, of the PDP team, of the PDP THA team, I could say that it's unfortunate that we are now in the month of June and we have made no headway on this matter. And it is also purposeful on the other side. And I want to remind you about where we are and what has happened. I want to remind Tobagonians that we were the ones who went at that meeting with the Prime Minister and went prepared to make a deal. I want to remind Tobagonians that we said, look, let us find a way to work together. We went as far as to say, look, we are willing to concede to you the two most powerful positions in both the executive and in the legislature. The position of chief secretary, the most powerful in the executive, and the position of presiding officer, the person who manages the entire assembly legislature. So we were saying, look, we will take the secondary position on the matter. We will take deputy chief secretary, and we said to create a balance on the executive, we will also non-negotiable take the position of Secretary of Finance. We started discussions. Then we said, look, here is a list of divisions we would like to have. And we are hoping that you will come back to us and say, look, these are what we would like to have. It's a negotiation. So we expected the PNM to come back and say, look, Farley, let's only want the division of works. But we don't feel we could give you all the division of works. We have somebody stronger for the division of works. And we will go back and forth, and work out the sharing of positions within the executive and proceed to formulate or get started in its fullest form, the assembly. That did not work. Then we said, look, all right, Since that's not working, let's have a mediator. Let's have mediators. Let's agree that we could pick 2 or 3 mediators that both sides can agree on, and we ask these mediators to mediate between Team PDP and Team PNM. PNM said no, they may want no mediator. Tobago had nobody good enough to mediate between 2 parties, right? We wrote, he said, look, and Mr. Duke said, all right, fine. Since all in agreement, nothing we put on the table, let us scrap everything we put on the table and let us start from scratch. Come to us with what you want. All deals are off the table now. Everything we put on the table, off the table. Since we are agreeing, nothing we put on the table. Let us start from scratch. Come to us with what you want. Let us talk. Maybe you may want to take the position of Deputy Chief Secretary and Secretary of Finance and give Farley the Chief Secretary position. So let's not be presumptuous. We are going to scrap everything we put on the table. You come to us and tell us what you want. Still no answer. And let me tell Tobagonians why that is so. PNM does not want any deal. They want this situation to stay as it is until 2025.
All right.
They don't want any form of good governance at all. And I am daring the PNM to come and refute what I'm saying this morning. Because what they want is a situation where there is no legislative form, so that no accountability can happen, no public accounts committee, no committees of the House. We have budget coming up in October. The law says that the THA is supposed to send to the National Parliament a budget by June.
Yes.
If we do not do that, Colman Burt will make a budget for Tobago, and it will appear as though PNM happy with that recolonization of Tobago, that Trinidad making budget for us. And when Trinidad makes that budget, what in law will that empower the holdover, rollover, whatever you want to call it, executive, to execute that budget?
All right.
And when will Tobagonians have a say through their area reps in the budgetary management of Tobago?
All right.
But you see, with this stalemate, but I'll tell you this before I shut up. PNM wants this stalemate to continue, because if this stalemate continues, thieving can continue unfettered in Tobago.
Okay.
That's what they want.
All right, your leader would have had renewed calls. He posted it on Facebook or something, I can't remember. But anyhow, he's calling for a new approach with mediators and what have you, as to probably come to a tiebreaker. Give us your views on your leader's position. Obviously, you will agree that there needs to be a new approach. What differently, or what different approach are you intending to make? You called for mediators, you didn't get that. And her response, which is Tracy Davidson, Mrs. Tracy Davidson, leader of the Tobago Council, is saying that there's no need for any renewed. Well, she refuted the idea of the new approach to having the conversation about sharing power. What is the next plan, or what is the next step for the PDP going forward?
You know, it's unfortunate that Mrs. Davidson Celestine continues to allow herself to be so ill-advised and misguided. I thought for a country girl like myself, a country boy, that, you know, wisdom came from the East. But somehow she's not attending herself to wisdom on this matter. Let's be clear to Tobagonians. There is absolutely nothing that can take Tobagonians to an election based on the current THA Act. Nothing. Not even Rowley's last amendment with 15 seats can dissolve the current THA. It cannot. The central government cannot dissolve the THA without an act by special majority in the parliament. And the THA Act gives only 2 provisions that can dissolve the THA and lead us back to an election, which is clear we must have sooner rather than later. But there is no provision that allows it. The THA Act gives 2 provisions. One, the THA dissolves itself on the 4th year anniversary of the first sitting of the House. We have not even had a single sitting of the House. All we have had was two or three meetings, right? So we had 2 or 3 meetings that were called by the clerk of the House. Those are not sittings of the House. And the second way in which we can have an election is by the House meeting and dissolving itself by resolution, by a motion in the House. That also cannot happen. And so that's what I'm telling you, PNM being tricky, playing smart with stupidness, because they will want this rollover, unaccountable THA, where we have secretaries who are not even members of the THA, spending taxpayers' money to continue indefinitely or to continue until 2025. And Tobagonians did not vote for that. Tobagonians decided that they didn't want to put PNM, they didn't want to put PDP, they put 6-6. There are no provisions in the law that allows us to go back to an election immediately.
Very good.
I suggested first that we use the standing orders, right? Remember that? If we use the standing orders will force us to draw lots. They refuse to do that. The clerk of the House refused to do that. We say, let's mediate, fine, let's mediate. Let's have mediators. None of that they want to agree with. And I am calling on the media to hold PNM to account. Because if you look at it, we are the only ones that have brought any solution to the table, that have brought any suggestion for how we should break this impasse. All the next side doing is skinning their teeth, taking out pictures, spending big money. And recently I'm hearing that exec council, this rollover exec council, approving $43 million to buy land and all kind of story.
All right.
Let me tell you something. If they don't want to see Old Mass and Bacchanal in this place, let us get down to governing Tobago properly.
All right.
And if you notice, Brother B, I have been calm, I have been quiet, I have been patient. The PDP has been calm, we have been quiet, we have been patient. Notice, it's been a while you have heard from us on this issue. At the start, people, even like yourself, were saying, look, we're behaving too much like we're running a union. We're making too much a noise. We have been calm and patient. I'm asking on behalf of Tobagonians, to the media, why you are not pressing those on the other side about what they are bringing to the table to solve this dispute and this impasse. And it's evident they do not want to solve it. They want to govern undemocratically. Tobagonians never voted for PNM to run Tobago. They voted 6-6. They voted for us to work this out. And now that we're having this Tobago bill, Brother B, back on this subject at hand, now we're having this Tobago bill. This should have been a prime opportunity for us together. You know how good we are look to Trinidad?
I tell you.
If we say to Trinidad, as one THA,
Mr.
as
Augustine,
one mixed THA. Look, this ain't working for we. Give us a formula to share with royalties. You think Trinidad could have rejected us?
All right.
You think royalties them could have been telling us what they want? And the AG could be talking up in the nose hole and in convent accept and tell us what we want? That could have never happened.
I am getting the wind up. I'm getting the wind up. So we got to go. We have another guest, and we already gone over the time. I want to thank you. We'll speak again, all right?
Sure.
And all the best to you. And, of course, we hope we come to a
You're
place,
welcome.
yeah, where we can really, have the thing working properly, obviously, give the other 6 aside. And all share the thing, and all let me get along now, man. All right, let's go for the break. When we come back, we talk football, and we're talking with Mr. Brent Sancho, former national footballer and former Minister of Sports. Yes? See you after the break.
Always doing something special for mothers. We're not forgetting fathers this year. Tobago Channel 5 is giving you the chance to win big. Viewers and listeners to Tobago Channel 5 would be invited to call into